Alright, so the objective for these notes is that you'll be able to apply the distributive property in solving equations. So these notes we were given in class on January 25th, 2012. We're going to actually do two things here. We're going to do solving two-step equations, which, let me cross that out. We're actually going to solve three-step equations, and we're going to learn about the distributive property. So the first part of this lesson is not to solve equations, it's just to review the distributive property. So what I've been asking people all day in class is, what is the definition of distribute? Not the mathematical definition, but the language arts definition. What does it mean to distribute? And the best example I have of it is the UPS man. The UPS man distributes packages. The mailman distributes mail. So to pass things out, to hand things out, that's to distribute. When I pass out your homework in class, I'm distributing your homework. So what the distributive property does is it hands things out. It passes them out. So here's how it does it. You have this 2 outside of the parentheses, which contain x plus 3. We're going to pass this 2 into the numbers inside the parentheses. Whatever's inside the parentheses is going to get past this 2. How are we going to do that? Well, hopefully you remember when you have a number next to a parentheses, that's telling you to multiply. So this means 2 times. So how are we going to distribute the 2 into the x and into the 3? We're going to do that using multiplication. Quite simply, all we're going to do is take x, multiply it times 2, and take 3 and multiply it times 2. Each item inside the parentheses will get multiplied by this number out here. So what do we end up with? 2 times x is 2x. I'm just going to simply bring down the plus sign. 2 times 3 is 6, and I'm done. Again, I'm not solving equations here. I'm just applying the distributive property. These two things are equivalent. They're the same. So what did I do? All I did was get rid of the parentheses. Why did I do that? Well, the next step we're going to do is solve equations. Do you know how to solve this equation? Or do you know how to solve this equation? We've talked about how to solve this equation by subtracting 6 from both sides and dividing by 2, but we don't know what to do with this with the parentheses. So the distributive property allows us to get rid of the parentheses to get something that we could solve. Again, we're not solving yet. We're just looking at the distributive property.
Good night, Bradley Stussy.
All right, so that was the intercom you heard there. Sorry for that distraction. So let's look at 3 more examples of the distributive property. All right, so let's look at the first one. Again, whatever's outside the parentheses is going to get distributed to what's inside the parentheses using multiplication. So we're going to simply multiply x times negative 2 and 3 times negative 2. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Bring down the minus sign. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. All right. Now, here's how I've been teaching this today to my students. 2x minus negative 6 looks goofy. Yes, that's a mathematical term, goofy. 2x minus negative 6 looks goofy. If you end up with something that looks goofy, like this, and you want to ungoofify it, we learned a trick earlier in the school year called keep it, change it, that we used for subtraction. So let's see what happens if we do keep it, change it on this. Keep it, change it to addition, change the negative 6 to positive 6. What would you rather deal with? Negative 2x minus negative 6 or negative 2x plus 6? You can actually work with either one. But here's my advice. If you get something like this and it looks goofy and you don't want to deal with it, try keep it, change it, and see what you end up with. I would rather deal with the one in blue. All right, so let's look at the next example. 3 times 4 minus 3 times 2x. Distribute the 3 inside here. 3 times 4 is 12 minus, just bringing that down, 3 times 2x is 6x. Again, does this look goofy? No. That looks fine with me, so I'm not going to mess with keep it, change it, change it. In fact, if I did keep it, change it on this, I'd end up with something that looked goofy. So don't take something that doesn't look goofy and make it look goofy. Don't you love it when I speak in these technical math terms? All right, let's look at the next example. We're going to take the -3 and distribute it inside the parentheses. Everybody inside the parentheses is going to get multiplied by -3. -3 times -2x. A negative times a negative makes a positive, so -3 times -2x is 6x. Bring down the minus sign. -3 times 4 is -12. Does that look goofy? Well, looks goofy to me, so I'm going to do keep it, change it, change it. Keep it, change it, change it. So I kept the 6x, I changed the minus to plus, I changed the -12 to +12. I'd much rather work with this. Alright, so that's the review of the distributive property. Now let's move into solving equations. In fact, we're going to solve 3-step equations. Our last lesson we solved 2-step, now we're going to solve 3-step. We're going to keep with our work, check, answer, which everyone loves so much. So I'd hate to deny you your work, check, answer. I wish this thing would go away. There we go. So, the new thing for today is when you have a problem like this with parentheses, we want to get rid of the parentheses. That's why we just reviewed the distributive property. So we're going to distribute this 2 inside the parentheses to get rid of them. 2 times x is 2x. Bring down the minus sign. 2 times 7 is 14 equals 23. And now we just have a simple 2-step equation. If you can read this, you can do it, because the problem tells you what to do. This says 2 times x minus 14. We're going to do the opposite of that. So if you can read it, you can do it. When we learned 2-step equations, I taught you to always do the addition or subtraction part first. So we're going to do the minus 14 first. The opposite of minus 14 is plus 14. So I add 14 to both sides of the equation. Minus 14 plus 14 is 0. So now I have 2x equals 23 plus 14 is 37. Now I have a 1-step equation. If you can read it, you can do it. 2 times x. The opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. So x equals 37 divided by 2, which is 18.5. So let's back up and think about what we're trying to do. Why are we doing this? We were given this equation, 2 times parentheses x minus 7 equals 23. There is one and only one number in the entire universe that I can plug in here for x, so that when I subtract 7 from it and then multiply it times 2, I will get 23. The whole point of this is to find out what is that number. We came up with 18.5. Are we sure that's right? Well, I'm pretty sure I did it right, but I might have made a mistake. So let's plug it in and see if it works. Let's see if 18.5 minus 7 times 2 is really 23. So here we go. 2 times, I'm plugging in my 18.5 for x, minus 7. And I want that to be equal to 23. If I did it right, that's what I'll get. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, PEMDAS, tells me to do multiplication and division before I do addition and subtraction. It also tells me to do parentheses first. I have parentheses, so let's do those first. 18.5 minus 7 is 11.5. So now I have 2 times 11.5. 2 times 11.5 is 23. Guess what? That's what we wanted. So we got the right answer. We did it right. So my answer again was x equals 18.5 I'll write that down in my answer column. If you're not in my class and you're watching this video, this column, the W stands for work, the C stands for check, the A stands for answer. So we do our work over here, we check our answer here, and then we rewrite the answer over here just to make it clear. All right, let's look at the next example. Again, let me see if I can get this thing to go away. Go away, go away. Yes. So when I have parentheses, my first step is to get rid of these using the distributive property. So I'm going to distribute -2 inside the parentheses. Again, this is my work, my check, my answer. -2 times x is -2x. Let's bring down the minus sign. -2 times 15 is -30 equals 14. Going back to my very scientific and technical math jargon, does that look goofy? Well, it looks goofy to me. So I'm going to do keep it, change it, change it. I'm going to keep the -2x. I'm going to change the minus to a plus, and I'm going to change the -30 to a +30. That looks a whole lot nicer to me to work with than that. And now I just have a two-step equation. So if you can read it, you can do it. -2 times x plus 30. Do the opposite. Do the addition and subtraction part first. Plus 30, the opposite of that is minus 30. So subtract 30 from both sides of the equation. 30 minus 30 is 0. So what I'm left with is -2x equals -16. Now we just have a one-step equation. -2 times x. Do the opposite. Divide by -2. -2 over -2 is 1. So my answer is x equals a negative divided by a negative, don't forget, is a positive. So -16 divided by -2 is +8. So again, there is only one number in the entire world that I can plug in here for x and subtract 15 from it, and then multiply it times -2 and have it come out to 14. So this work found the answer to be 8. So if we did this right, then this will come out. We're going to check it right now. So -2 times, plug in my 8 for x, minus 15 equals 14. Same as before. Order of operations, PEMDAS applies. So I have to do the parentheses first. So now I have -2 times 8 minus 15 is -7. Again, this is what I'm shooting for. -2 times -7 is 14. We did it. We found the right answer, the one and only number in the entire world that will work. And again, I take my answer and I write it over here in my answer column, x equals 8. Another example. I think this is the last one. Don't know why I have this box. Go away. There's an expression that says you get what you pay for, right? So since you're not paying for this video, you got to deal with my little marks over here. So let's try a fraction, because everyone loves fractions. I got parentheses. I want to get rid of them. So I'm going to distribute 1/2 times 4x. It's the same thing as saying what's half of 4x. Half of 4x is 2x. Bring down the minus sign. 1/2 times 6. Same thing as what's 1/2 of 6 is 3. Now I have a simple two-step equation. If you can read it, you can do it. 2 times x minus 3. Do the opposite. Always do any addition or subtraction first. So -3, I do the opposite and add 3 to both sides of the equation. 2x equals 12. 9 plus 3 is 12. I just brought down the 2x. 2 times x, do the opposite. Divide both sides by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Again, the whole point is there is one and only one number in the world that I can plug in here and multiply 4 times it, and then subtract 6 from it, and then multiply it times 1/2 and have it come out to 9. There are some of you superstars out there that knew the answer without doing any work, and that's wonderful. But you need to learn these steps so that when you get to more complicated equations, you'll be able to solve them. No matter how hard the equation that you're trying to solve, it's still the same basic steps. It's just a matter of doing the steps in the right order. Alright, so we're going to plug 6 in here and see if we got the right answer. So we have 1/2 times 4 times 6 minus 6 equals 9 is what we're shooting for. We got to do the parentheses first. Order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And then we have to do order of operations within the parentheses. We have multiplication and subtraction. PEMDAS tells us that multiplication comes before subtraction. Here's my multiplication. Here's my subtraction. So we're going to do the 4 times 6 first. So that's going to give us 1/2 times 4 times 6 is 24 minus 6. Finish out the parentheses. 24 minus 6 is 18. 1/2 times 18, or 1/2 of 18 is 9. So we got the number we wanted. So we know that x equals 6 is our correct answer. And that's it for these notes. As always, if you missed anything or you didn't understand something, rewind it and watch it again and listen closely and see if maybe you understand it better the next time. So this is Mr. Bywater, out.